So here we are, 2 months later. We're finally at a point where we could talk about demobilization. Within the last 2 months, much has happened. Took a united front to ensure public safety, and my colleagues in the EOC, all of them, they'll come together to work on this, but also the province of British Columbia for their outstanding work, and the wildfire crews, who, without their help, we couldn't have demobilize these 2 million sandbags. We'll get into that in a minute. But we protected public infrastructure, and we kept our cities safe. I'd like to introduce the team that's been working hard to come up with the plan and really trying to figure out what do you do with that many sandbags. And it sounds simple at first until you start pulling back the layers. So today we have Andrew Hunsberger, our advanced planning section chief, and he'll be providing an overview of the flood protection removal. We also have Ian Wilson, our acting operations chief. Ian will be speaking to debris removal, and I'd also like to acknowledge Tara Hirschkorn. She's our wave expert from Water's Edge Engineering, and throughout this ordeal has done a great job of, without her expertise, I think some of the protection may not have stood as well as it did. Going out in the lake and really assessing where the real extreme trouble spots were. I'd also like to acknowledge Patrick Tobin from Vernon and Bob Werner from Penticton. They're with the Ministry of Forest Lands and Natural Resources Operations, and they'll be here to answer questions you have about docks. So, first I'll invite Andrew up to the podium.
Great. Thank you, Ron. So as Ron mentioned, we're in our 70th operational period. So this started back on May 5th when the creeks overflowed, as most of you know. So just to recap, 2 million sandbags were deployed by our, primarily our wildfire crews, some of our paid on-call firefighters and municipal staff. So we've got 5 kilometers plus of the tiger dams, or the water bladders out there. Lots of gabion baskets, 33 kilometers of sandbag walls. So we were out for a boat ride last week and looked at some of these walls and the enormous project that we have ahead here to deal with the sandbags and getting them out. 160 wildfire staff were here at one point in time. 40,000 person hours, so a huge undertaking. And again, thanks to the province, they've been instrumental in making this happen. So we peaked back on the 4th in Kalmalka Lake, June 4th, and Okanagan Lake on the 9th of June. So we didn't reach our 343.5, which was projected, so we were just shy of that, but we were definitely at historic levels. So the cleanup is said it's going to take 150 to 200% of what it took to put these things up. So there's a lot of work here. So we've already started the removal of the protection, flood protection measures. So some of the tiger dams have come down from the beaches, sandbags as well. So this is our staged approach. We have a stage 1 and stage 2. We're in stage 1 right now. So the interim kind of removals. This, due to the water still being high, we're above our 1990 and 97 levels. So we still are we still are protecting areas with our flood protection measures. So we're doing what we can to remove what's out there where it's safe and where we're not going to run into problems with erosion on the forefront or the foreshore, and some of the docks that have managed to survive some of our wind events. We want to ensure that some of these areas are protected moving forward. So this stage 1 that we're in now, we're asking the public, the homeowners that live on the water, if they can start moving their sandbags to the roadside or beach accesses to help us get rid of some of these sandbags as the water is still high. So after that's complete and we feel that it's safe to start tearing down completely, then we'll move to stage 2, which is where our crews, supported by the province, will go into backyards and start removing these flood protection measures. So flood protection is temporary, so all of the sandbags and gabions and tiger dams and everything we put out needs to be removed. And also important is that the sand, we don't want the sand dumped into the creeks, into the lake, into the wetlands. That sand is being hauled off to gravel pits and will be utilized by some of our municipalities in their winter road maintenance. So a lot of the sand is going to be reused. The burlap bags we're able to compost those, so the Glenmore landfill will do that. And then the white poly bags that you see out there, they'll be landfilled as well. So as I mentioned, we're in stage 1, hopefully moving to stage 2 soon. We're going to probably start up in Lake Country because Kalamalka Lake and Wood Lake and those areas, the water seems to be dropping quicker there. So we'll make sure that we inform the public through the webpage and the mapping that we have there, as well as media, letting them know that we're going to be in these certain neighborhoods for the next week or so, removing some of these flood measures. So wait for those notifications. So I just want to speak about boating, respectful boating. So we've posted guidelines and provided a map, spoken to our partners to the north, the Regional District, Bird and Coldstream, and to the south, Summerland, Penticton, and the RDOS, to ensure that we have a valley-wide, Okanagan Lake-wide, Kalamalka Lake, Wood Lake boating message that there are sensitive areas, sensitive shorelines. So the areas that we have on our map, and you can look at that map on the website as well. We have a no-wake area, so we're asking people to generate no wake with their boat, but also a low wake area, which is keeping your wake below 30 centimeters. And as we get closer to full pool, which is hopefully the end of July, then we can look at updating our respectful boating, our mapping, to let folks know that we can move into other areas. So I'm going to pass it on to Ian. He's going to talk about debris management.
Thanks, Andrew. Just one quick clarification too, Andrew, on your comments. We're asking people to start peeling back some of the top layers of their sandbags and bringing them out to the road, but to keep about a 60 centimeter buffer. So that's to still for the wave action if there are some wave events. So to not take everything down yet in that first stage. So the debris plan is we've had a huge amount of woody debris and docks and garbage and barrels and all kinds of stuff floating around the lake this spring, as you're probably aware. We normally get some freshet, some woody debris every spring, but this is an extraordinary event and really high volumes out there, and people have been asking us lots of questions about, what do we do and how are we going to get rid of all this stuff. So again, thanks to support from the province, we've had lots of discussions about supporting cleaning up the lake, and the province has announced to us that they'll fund all the costs for removal of man-made debris from public land. So that's things like the barrels and the garbage and things that are coming ashore, as well as some of the orphaned docks that are coming ashore. So just to be clear on that, if somebody has a private dock and it's their dock and they want to take it away or replace it, that's still their responsibility. But where there are pieces of docks or this types of material that's washing up and nobody really knows who it belongs to, that's what we'll be looking after and helping to manage. The removal of smaller woody debris won't be funded, so like natural woody debris, like smaller pieces and branches and those, and there is quite a bit of material out there that'll still be up to the adjacent owners to deal with. And we do have a few options in terms of disposal. If where possible, small pieces can be put in yard waste bins, but of course we know a lot of people have larger volumes. They can take things to the landfill. If it meets the definition of yard waste, there's no charge for that. We currently have some contractors out there working on the lake right now with barges, and they are doing some of the cleanup for us. They've started in the areas where there is public land and where the risk of erosion is less. So we've, and the reason for that is that we don't want to take away all the debris where it might still be providing some protection from waves. So we've started in those areas where there is a lower risk, and we think that they're actually going to clean up most of the public foreshore areas probably within the next day or two. And then we're asking people to stay tuned as to how we roll it out with other public areas, in front of private properties, but still on the public domain, how we're going to roll that out and help take away some of those orphan pieces of docks and garbage. But I expect that will probably start within the next week or two. So at this point, we do have a little bit of data. just from some oblique photos that were taken of these areas, that you know, there's roughly over 360 pieces of docks that we've kind of cataloged floating around in front of different properties, about 200 large pieces of woody debris, and of course then there's the barrels and other pieces of stuff that's floating around. So it is quite a bit of material. It's going to take a while to clean up, and as I said, we'll try to roll it out as the water recedes and where we feel it's safe to do so.
Thanks, Andrew and Ian. Before we open up to questions, just once again, for those people that would like to remove some of the bags up to a certain level, you know, feel free at this point. We will be going around and picking it up. The more we can stage and the more help we have, obviously the faster the cleanup will occur.